Coming up now on your spoiler-free wrestling news rundown, AEW Dynamite did excellent in the television ratings, RTruth calls CM Punk entitled, and Tony Khan and Nick Khan express very different philosophies on professional wrestling. That's all now on your spoiler-free wrestling news rundown. This is just a reminder that we omit any news or information which could potentially spoil the results, angles, storylines, or surprise debuts taking place in professional wrestling. If you appreciate this type of wrestling coverage, please consider subscribing, clicking the notifications bell, and sharing this video with friends. The television ratings are in for this week's edition of AEW Dynamite from Milwaukee. The show featured CM Punk's Dynamite debut after he made his first AEW appearance at The First Dance on Friday. The show did quite well in the television ratings. It brought in 1.172 million viewers on TNT, which is up 20% from last week, and it also drew a 0.48 rating in the key 18 to 49 demographic. That's the best that Dynamite has done all year in that category, and the second best it's done in the show's history. However, it did fall below what Rampage did on Friday night. Rampage on Friday night brought in a 0.53 in the key demographic and averaged 1.129 million viewers. Now up on your screen now is how Dynamite has done in the ratings the last few weeks, and this is courtesy of ITN, WWE.com. You can see that they did dip below 1 million viewers and under a 0.4 in the key demographic for August 11th and August 18th. However, now on the heels of CM Punk debuting in the promotion, back over both of those marks this week. WWE's Nick Khan has been in the media quite a bit lately, and a lot of what he's saying regarding WWE's scouting and hiring policies has been making headlines in the pro wrestling world. Specifically, some comments he made during an interview with Ariel Helwani from BT Sport. Khan was talking about how NXT is going to go through a rebrand and how WWE wants to scout less from the independent wrestling promotions and more from athletes from other sports. Here is what he said to Ariel Helwani. He said, "In terms of an NXT rebrand, look for it in the next couple of weeks. It's going to have a whole new look. It's going to have a whole new feel. And we believe because a lot of the indie wrestlers, if you will, have come through our system and are in our system with Smackdown and Raw now, we don't want to just keep doing that same thing. We want to look elsewhere for great young talent." And there were tryouts in Las Vegas recently, and the belief is that WWE is looking for wrestlers or inexperienced wrestlers that they can train rather than wrestlers who have been working on the independent promotions for years and years. So then there was a report that came out recently in the Wrestling Observer newsletter where Dave Meltzer is saying that his sources within WWE are saying that the word from the top is no more independent talent as far as scouting and such. They are back to the feeling of scouting by looks and not because guys have gotten over elsewhere and teaching people with the right look to be wrestlers. So there are said to be more plans to have additional tryouts like the ones recently in Las Vegas where athletes from other sports and athletes with no wrestling experience are encouraged to try out. Now, Tony Khan from AEW has gotten wind of these comments, and he's responded with a couple of GIFs. So on Twitter, he was responding to this tweet from Andy Murray that said, WWE are no longer scouting indie wrestling talent and are content to leave that scene to AEW. Tony Khan responded with this GIF, which has someone saying, "I'll take 18 of them all day." And then not long after that, I guess Tony Khan was thinking that maybe that first GIF didn't land and I should tweet another one. And so in response to that same tweet, here he's got an image that just says, "We don't hire brokers here, we train new ones." And actually a few days ago, he had put out a tweet which many were saying was a response to some of the comments that Nick Khan has been making. And here's what Tony Khan had to say. He wrote, Professional wrestling is an art form. You don't create great artists by training them all to paint by numbers in the same way. So I think the tweets here by Tony Khan and the comments recently by Nick Khan really sum up the philosophical differences between AEW and WWE. The third edition of Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea will take place this October, and Jericho has recently announced the first few names confirmed for the cruise. Now, this will be the third time that Jericho has run this cruise. It'll be the second time since AEW came into existence. However, it does not appear that an episode of AEW Dynamite will be filmed from the cruise this year. So the cruise is set to set sail from October 21st to 25th, and Jericho announced on social media recently that confirmed for the voyage will be AEW Women's World Champion Britt Baker, Orange Cassidy, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, and Colt Cabana, but more additions will be confirmed soon. The former Billie Kay and Peyton Royce, the Iconics, are now Jessica McKay and Cassie Lee, the Inspiration, still with two eyes. The Australian duo took to social media today to announce their return to professional wrestling after being released from WWE back in April. They wrote, "Finally, Inspiration returns to professional wrestling. Cassie Lee and Jessica McKay present the Inspiration Tour, dates and cities to be announced soon." Shortly after that, WrestleCade announced that the Inspiration will be at their convention in late November. Now, news that the former Iconics are returning to professional wrestling is good, considering that both had mentioned they were dealing with some issues getting a work visa after that they had gotten released from WWE. When they were on Renee Paquette's Oral Sessions podcast, McKay had the following to say about having trouble getting their work visas. She said, "People are like, what are you going to do now? Well, nothing, because I can't legally work in the country, and people think that you apply for the green card and it comes in the mail. This stuff takes years, and we've been through the ringer with this. Getting stuff denied and switching the process because of the pandemic, it keeps backing up year after year. We're almost there, but almost there could still be a year away. We just don't know. Well, it appears based on this announcement that things have gotten worked out, well, I'm assuming, for the Inspiration, and that they are ready to resume their professional wrestling careers." There was also a report in the Wrestling Observer newsletter released today that part of the reason why Brock Lesnar was brought back to WWE at SummerSlam was because the Fox network, which airs Smackdown, was upset about the CM Punk debut in AEW. This is what Dave Meltzer wrote about the situation. Fox was very upset that WWE didn't make a big offer to Punk to keep him from going to AEW, and politically, WWE felt the need to get Lesnar and Lynch to SmackDown right away. Now, of course, Becky Lynch's return was likely going to come anyway, but apparently Brock Lesnar's deal was very last minute. Meltzer continued. He said that sources told him it was literally a last-minute deal that was put together for a number of reasons, all in some form related to Fox, CM Punk showing up in AEW, and John Cena leaving. Well, I guess we'll find out more about what Brock Lesnar is going to be doing in WWE on SmackDown tonight. Some social media comments from RTruth have made headlines in recent days. RTruth was responding to a clip someone posted of comments CM Punk made on Colt Cabana's podcast in 2014, talking about how at one point in WWE he was upset that he ended up losing to the team of Miz and RTruth, who were named The Awesome Truth at the time. And apparently Punk felt that losing to The Awesome Truth at that point didn't make any sense. But RTruth responded to these comments and ended up calling CM Punk entitled. He wrote, "CM Punk, you lost to me and Miz because we were hotter than you. Sorry, and I never thought you were impressive at all. Just typical entitlement." Interesting comments by RTruth. And the last thing for this video is we will run down the lineups for both WWE SmackDown and AEW Rampage tonight. Starting with SmackDown, they will be in the Simmons Bank Arena in North Little Rock, Arkansas. and they have 2 segments and 1 match announced for the show. The big segment, of course, Becky Lynch returns to SmackDown tonight, the new SmackDown Women's Champion, and we'll see what Bianca Belair has to say about that quick match that they had at SummerSlam. Also booked for tonight on Rampage will be a championship celebration featuring Universal Champion Roman Reigns, who defeated John Cena at SummerSlam. And the one match that's been announced tonight, a tag team match as King Nakamura will team with Rick Boogs, who this might be his SmackDown debut. Maybe, not sure. Anyway, Nakamura and Rick Boogs will take on the Dirty Dogs, Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. And the 3rd ever edition of AEW Rampage will also air tonight. Now, this show was taped after Dynamite in Milwaukee on Wednesday. 3 matches are announced for the show. We will see Ty Conti versus The Bunny. We will see the finals in the AEW Tag Team Title Eliminator Tournament as the Lucha Bros will take on Jurassic Express. The winner will go on to All Out and face the Young Bucks for the tag titles inside a steel cage. And also tonight, Kenny Omega and Brandon Cutler from the Elite will take on Christian Cage and the Elite Hunter Frankie Kazarian. And AEW has also announced that we will hear from both CM Punk and Darby Allin tonight on Rampage. And with that, you are completely up to date on everything that's making headlines in the world of professional wrestling, minus anything which could spoil future storylines, angles, match results, or surprise debuts. I'm your host, Gentleman Ian, for Spoiler Free Wrestling.